Today on Nova Legends podcast, I have trail and ultra runner John Andersen, who has competed in some of the most prestigious and longest running events on the East Coast. John is a 94 Robinson grad. I was 84. James Madison guy. John has been on 19 podiums, top three in some of these events. He won the 50K Catoctin trail run and has gotten second twice in the 100-mile Old Dominion race. John lives in Crozet. John, great to meet you. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Julian. Great to, Robinson is such a blast from the past. So the connection through my brother with you is kind of cool because I don't live in Northern Virginia anymore. So it's easy to drift away from that.
Yeah. Well, fair disclosure, he is Tim Anderson's brother. So my all
Yeah.
my fans out there who know Tim, apologies in advance. Uh, no, Tim's a great guy. So so John, so my father was a runner, and we called them joggers back then. And
Yeah.
basically, he was running because he did the PT test for the Army. So he used to run in his Chuck Taylors when I was a kid. This is before running was big. There was a movie in the early 70s called something about the long distance runner, or I forgot what it was called, but it really brought running to the forefront. And then, my father did marathons and so, and now running is huge. I mean, if you go outside, people are running everywhere. There's 5Ks, there's marathons, there's beyond like what you're doing. Give us a little bit of the history about your genre, the trail running and ultra running. When did that become a thing? When did marathon running wasn't enough for us? We had to keep going.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's still kind of evolving, but I'd say that it's interesting because trail and ultra running has been a thing for, you know, 30 plus years. Just happening lately. If fans of like trail and ultra running, like the Western States 100, uh, just happened in California. It's kind of like the Super Bowl for ultra running, but that race has been around for without looking at it, but like over 30 years, I believe. And of course, at first, it's a really, really niche, thing that was easy to get into. And now, people have to get qualifiers and apply for sometimes 10 years before they can finally get a spot in that particular race. So, but yeah, I started getting into, I did my first ultra marathon, which is probably also my first trail race in 2013. And it's funny because I never think of myself as like old school, but now I've been doing it for long enough that maybe I'm getting there. But even then, it was a very different sport than today. But I think the trail is just something that once that seems like a barrier for people to get off of the roads and get into the mountains and get onto trails because it's a very different type of running. We're not really concerned as much about our pace. We're not looking at as much, you know, the same metrics you get on a road run. A marathon runner, you can compare your marathon time as like, oh, I'm a 3:30 marathoner, and that kind of defines you across the entire spectrum of marathoning. Whereas a 5.5 hour time at the Promised Land 50K is like, how does that equate to that time in another ultra? Who knows? Because it's all about the terrain. So I think trail and ultra running has just been this, you know, alternate path that maybe people who haven't enjoyed the road as much have gotten onto. But now in the sport, there's so many really, really fast people. These college runners and road runners get into it and they almost have this great advantage because they're so fast and fit. They're crushing all of us who kind of came into it as adults recreationally who were having some success. And now you have really, really fast people, but it's still a wonderful sport that is a lot about just community and friendship, as well as being as competitive as you want to be.
Yeah. How do the relay races and the overnight stuff relate to this? Is it part of the same genre? Or are those things a little bit like you see these relay races and overnight, and you'll see them like set up in like a bike trail or whatever, and it's just part of a long race. That is that
Yeah.
part of the same genre?
Uh, you know, I yes and no. Like, yeah, there are a lot of things. Like Ragnar is a
Yeah.
company that puts on a lot of these like trail relay races, and it's great. I think they're awesome, and a lot of people that I know have done them. There's camaraderie. Everybody does some sort of like 8 mile loop for 24 hours or something. So you're still getting out on the trail, and I think that's great. But otherwise, I'd say there's such a big growth of trail races out there as well. And usually it starts with like one person saying, "Man, I love this nature area that I run at a lot. I'd love to host some people. I'd love to put on a race here. I'd love to see what it's like when we take a big group of people up this mountain, around that, hollow and down by this river and back, and it would make a great course." And then next thing you know, those things start happening. And if you've got a good race director and you've got a good course and you've got a good group of people around it, these races start to grow and become successful over the years.
Yeah. How relevant and how important are the different surfaces? I mean, would it be the same thing if you're doing 100-mile races on asphalt? I mean, or a track type surface, or is the fact that it's on gravel and dirt and other sometimes it's a multiple surface within a race? Does that make it interesting? Does it make it more or less safe, better
Yeah,
for you?
it's a great question because if you just say the word ultra running, I mean, technically, you can also be talking about things like 24-hour track events, which are literally at the track, or there's like one of the biggest ultra marathons in the world is the Comrades Marathon, which is a 50-mile race in South Africa. Huge roads, road only. Um, I think for what I'm into and what I'll probably talk about today is trail and mountain ultra running. And I do think as someone who I'm 49 now, so I'm at that point where I'm still trying to be competitive, but I really pay attention to what's good for my legs and good for my body. Uh, when you race up and down a mountain and you're getting a lot of climbing and a lot of descending and you're on trail, which is uneven surface but soft, uh, I firmly believe it's much better for your body. It makes you much more durable and it's less demanding. Probably the most injured I've been has been at road marathons, right? So I've done races that have taken me 24 hours, but those road marathons that are, whatever time you do it at, but 3 hours, 3.5 for me, so intense. And it's the exact same footfall. It's the exact same cadence. Can you keep that up for 3 hours? And anyone listening to this who's run a marathon knows that come mile 22, 24, you're almost panicking. You're like, "Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this anymore for 50 more yards." And you're playing all these mental games. Whereas late in an ultra marathon, you can be just as tired and spent, but it's like, "All right, I just got to climb this one last mountain." And then it's a downhill gravel road bomb down to the finish line. And I think your legs are kind of just much better suited for those types of things because when you're going uphill, you're not really using your downhill legs as much. When you're going downhill and you're just about done with that, and then you turn to another uphill, it's almost a rest or a break. So, yeah, I just really prefer how my body responds to that. So,
I would think you would need an incredible amount of concentration to avoid a misstep to get hurt. Whereas running, most of the steps are pretty much the same. But when you're doing mountains, trails, terrain varies. I would think it'd be so easy to get hurt. Or is the fact that your body is used to different types of surfaces makes you more durable? Do you need more concentration, or because you get used to the variety of terrains,
yeah.
your
Yeah.
body can handle it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I will say like, and my friends will agree, I fall a lot. And if you do enough trail running, like you're gonna toe a route and fall, and it's amazing how many times I've fallen on the trail. Sometimes at like full speed, and it usually works out okay, even when you fall on a few rocks and things like that, because still for the most part, you're much better off falling on dirt in the forest floor versus I remember one time I was running on a sidewalk and there was just one of those little steps where a tree root had like raised the sidewalk and I was going really slow and man I hit the sidewalk and I just had to lay there for a second. I thought I was broken, big time. So, and it is amazing. I think another thing that's really appealing to the trail running is it's a very, I don't know if primal is the right word, but you're in the woods, you're doing stuff as if, you're before the industrialization of the world, and you're traveling as people did a long time ago. And your body gets used to it. At 49, I have to wear reading glasses now. My night vision isn't as good as it used to be. So I can tell those things are challenging, but it's also amazing. You get into this rhythm where your body just starts to process these little obstacles and you're not even thinking about it. So I think you get used to it. The people who have the hardest time with trail running are people who have ankle instability. So, that person who like really blew out their ankle in high school, that becomes a little bit of a liability for your trail running career. You can help with that, but I think that's the one thing where people probably worry about. But otherwise, the injury rates for falling are surprisingly low
Hmm.
considering how fast a lot of people are running on the trails.
God, I was just thinking it'd be so easy to sprain an ankle.
Yeah.
Do you have specialists that just do trails and specialists that don't do them in trails and only do ultra on hard surfaces?
You mean like the athletes themselves?
Yeah, specialists that just do one or the other. They don't like
Yeah.
you may have an ultra marathon who won't do trails or a trail runner who won't do hard surfaces.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, probably yes. I think most of the people I know, we do it all. We may prefer to only race on a trail or mountain course. I will never do like a road marathon. The JFK 50, right? It's like been around forever, and I kind of have no interest in that, despite the historical nature of the race, because you have like 26 miles of the tow path, the CNO, it's just flat as could be. And for me, I'm like, no, I don't have any interest in doing that. It's just too much of the same thing. I like the variation. But then there's a lot of people I know who just they pretty much only do the road and the track stuff with the ultra marathon distance. So most people, I'd say, they get out, they're doing some training runs on the roads in their neighborhood. They're doing a lot of miles in the city or wherever, and then they may, I happen to be lucky. I live in Crozet outside of Charlottesville, so I can run up 2,000, 2,500 feet from my house. So I'm kind of spoiled. But people who are in Richmond or something, they're going to get some roads and some trails, and maybe they drive out this way on the weekend and get a mountain run in if they can.
No, I love it out there. I think you're so lucky to live in Crozet. What kind of athletes are attracted to this type of running? Now, as we were talking beforehand, I was a cyclist, and it was interesting when I first got into it. There was a lot of people that weren't very good athletes at all. Anything else they had tried, but they were great cyclists because it was something you could just train hard for. There was a formula to be great, and they became really good. And so they weren't necessarily great athletes. A lot of them weren't like the nicest people in the world either. But let's face it, the ones who did really, really well were great athletes. It's something special about them, the ones that really succeeded. But that wasn't, the rule. But what about in trail running and ultra running? Who was drawn to it?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question, right? Because you can kind of have the answer of like, yeah, probably people who are like, addicts and things like that, right? Tend to be driven to endurance sports because it is kind of a similar thing of like you can put in a lot of time, you can get some endorphins, and so I think that's right. And I don't know if I probably fall into the realm. I haven't drinking alcohol in like 24 years or so.
Wow.
Uh, but
That's why your skin is so clear.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. But then I think too, I think people who love like they get to love the process of training. I was running with my buddy this morning, and his wife is training for a race we put on here in Crozet, and I was like, I can tell like she's got it. Like she is getting up early, and I'll see her out on the mountain running by herself, and you can just kind of tell like some people just really enjoy um, getting out, putting in the miles, working towards a goal. And the thing with ultra marathons is like we don't train more than someone who's uh, training for like a marathon. Seriously, like To me, I've been doing it for a long time. I've done a lot of 100-mile races, hard, and you don't need to run, you know, huge miles. You don't. I don't ever want to. I don't like running more than like 3 to 4 hours for a really long run. Some people do more than that, of course. So I think the attractive thing about it is people who love nature, who love just being out in the mountains, and people who just like a challenge of doing really, really, really hard stuff. Because I think maybe the addictive thing of the ultra marathons, especially like longer stuff. Because let me say, there's a huge difference between a 50-kilometer race, which is kind of like the starting distance for a lot of ultra marathons, and there's a lot of great options here. Here in Virginia, we're super spoiled. We have like one of the best states in the nation for trail running. That is completely different than a 100-mile race where you're going to be out there for a day, probably more, and you're going to get into these spots where you have really kind of you're just giving up hope. You're not in a good place. You're really dejected, and if you're stubborn enough and you keep going, 2 hours later everything is good again and you're running, and then when you finish and sometimes you look back of like, man, I was feeling so bad, I was ready to quit, they wouldn't let me quit, and then you take away what you did with that and it's like, all right, that has made me a better person. It's taught me a lot about myself, and I can't wait to suffer like that again. That seems to be something a lot of people really enjoy about it.
That's interesting. When I used to do bike races, and I remember my last race I ever did, it was like the area championship. And it was like a 100-mile race. It was hot. I remember it was every step of the way. I hate this. I can't wait till it's over. Why do I do this? This is terrible. It sucks. And as soon as the race is over, you're like, oh, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't. It was terrible. But it's like childbirth. From what I heard, from what I hear, is it kind of you just forget about it when it's over, and you remember the good parts of it. Do you feel that this is good for you, or is it sometimes can be too much of a good thing? Ultra running.
Yeah, it's a really good question because I do think I'm currently in this like mental place where at least like 100-mile races are really, really tough, and one of the biggest problems with running that long is your stomach starts to go. Like a lot of people have GI upset. For me, it would be like nausea, where you can't really eat, and if you're not taking in calories, you're going to start to bonk. Sometimes you puke during a race, which is as unpleasant as it sounds. So there are some times where you finish and you're sick, and it's like, gosh, what am I doing to my body? How much of a stress was this? So I think balancing that with balancing like having a schedule, spending a lot of time outside, mostly doing aerobic exercise. So I'd like to say it's mostly good for you, but like it's like drinking. Like you got to figure out a way to do it in moderation because there are a lot of people who they let it take over. I've seen it ruin a lot of relationships. It affects people's like work and things like that. So you gotta you gotta really be conscientious of those pitfalls and try to keep it healthy. So yeah, I want to be 75 and still running and hiking and not at all limited by any stuff. Is your dad still around? Does he
No,
still
no, he passed about 15 years ago, but he did his last Marine Corps, I think at 73.
Okay.
So
Wow,
he,
that's amazing. And that quality of life at 73 to be able to do that is amazing, right? I mean, we can only hope for that. That's probably one of my biggest goals ever is just if I can be over 70 and still doing what I want. I know I'll be slow. I know I'll probably be stiff in the morning, but versus not being able to do that, the option is very clear. So,
yeah, I can't even hardly run anymore. So it's tough. I hope I can get there. Um, what else do you do outside of running? I mean, obviously, I'm sure some stretching, and you do some weights. I talked to Erin Keogh a couple months ago. I'm not sure if you caught that one. She's one of the greatest runners in the history of Northern Virginia. She won, I think, two national championships in high school,
yeah.
and she recently got back into running, and she was telling me there's all these different weight training exercises that she's doing now, and it's really helping her stay out there. But what about you? Do you do a lot of stretching and weight training as well?
Yeah, on one hand, I think I'm lucky in that my body's pretty sturdy. I don't get injured a lot. But again, I'm 49, so I'm feeling, that catching up to me a little bit. Honestly, I hate the gym. I just hate it. I actually did like a little bit of strength work this morning. I'm trying to like get back into that because I have a few things going on. And I just don't enjoy it. So I'm gonna do the least amount that I can, and I'm probably gonna do it in response to some sort of injury. But I also will say, I mountain bike. I really like that. So I've been trying to do that about 2 days a week as well. I like to, hike and do other things. I do a lot of trail work. So sometimes I'll spend like 4 hours lugging a backpack of batteries and my brush cutter up the mountain, clearing some trail. And I kind of look at that as like, that's strength work. I think so. So I'm sure I'll get relegated to more gym and swimming and something, but I'm going to resist it as much as I can because it's not the same as being outside in nature. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, when I was reading up about you, you mentioned a couple times about the community of runners, and it's one of the reasons why you enjoy it so much. And I'm sure one of the reasons why you love having a store, a running store. Kind of describe the kind of people that are in the community. Like when I was a basketball player, so the pickup basketball community is something I miss to this day, and I'm
yeah.
still friends with them on on Facebook. A lot of the folks that I played with and even played high school with or friends with. But anyway, the basketball community is a very special community. And we have a lot of fun and talk a lot of trash and a lot of big personalities. But anyway, what about the running, the ultra running community? How would you describe it?
Yeah. It's the best. I think there's a lot more camaraderie. And again, no offense to road running marathon, and I don't even like to separate that because probably if you look at my training, most of my training I'm on a road, whether it's a gravel road or mountain road. But I think something about the type of people who like to gather on trails and trail races and stuff, it's just very encouraging. If you go run a trail race, let alone an ultra marathon in the mountains, you really chat people up a lot and you'll come away with like a new best friend that you've told these weird childhood secrets to and stuff, because you're spending a lot of time and you quickly make a lot of friendships like that. So after 13 years of doing ultras, I have so many friends that a lot of them, I've just bonded on a race or afterwards. Whereas, for marathons, I mean, I'm a talker, so I'll try to chat people up, and it's like crickets a lot of the time. And again, not that's not a fair thing to say for everybody, but I should say too, we did close our running shop in 2020.
Okay.
COVID kind of came, and there was a lot of difficulties there, and we had some other stuff going on, so it was a bit of an off ramp. But we had that for 7 years. But yeah, I think it's just a very encouraging community. And when you go to the finish line of a trail race, there's people of all different shapes and sizes. I think runners scare people who don't do a lot of exercise because like if you're way over here, it seems like those people are crazy fit and they think about what they eat and stuff. And then if you're at the finish line of an ultra and you see all these like 70-year-olds, you see people who are overweight, you see people who just maybe don't look like what a lot of people think of as runners. It's like, oh, okay, these people are out here just having a fun time. They don't care what place they come in. They just wanted to finish this journey on the trail. And so we saw that a lot with our running store and the people that would come in. And I'd say too, like this we formed this Charlottesville area trail runners. We have a nonprofit and we put on a lot of races and things like that in Charlottesville, and that's been really cool because we put on a lot of races that are like 5K, 5 miles, and we get everything from a lot of parents, 8-year-old kids, 70-year-old men and women, and just this really good like slice of community. I, I think I think most people are great. And I think community, whether it's basketball community, whether it's a knitting community or whether it's something else, I think when like-minded people get together, there's always a lot of like huge positivity in that. So trail running is one more version of that, but I'd like to say very good, very nice
Yeah,
people.
well, it sounds like it would be. Because you're not really doing that. I mean, you do like to brag about it with your friends when you get home. Oh, I ran 80 miles, but you do have a lot of time with which to build relationships out there. Now, when I used to race bicycles, I spent all my time thinking about what I'm going to eat, what I'm going to drink, when I'm going to do it. It's cyclists. We spend a lot of time training. We spend a lot of time fixing our bikes, and the rest of the time we spend eating. And we can
Yeah,
eat a lot because we're
yeah.
burning a lot of calories. But we learn, quickly our performance is that much better if we, eat wisely. What about us in running? Do you spend a lot of time eating, and do you spend a lot of time thinking about what you should eat?
Yeah. Yes and yes. And I think one big difference with ultra running, just in the run, is eating while running. Fueling is like so important. You could probably get through a marathon without eating too much. And there's super fast people. I'm like what? You had two gels? Like that's amazing. Whereas if you're running a trail race that's going to take you 8 hours, like you got to figure out how you're going to get in, 300 calories an hour. And I'm one who my stomach is my Achilles heel. And after so many hours, like your body just doesn't want any more gel or sports drink, or a lot of times I'll try to eat whole food like peanut butter jelly sandwiches, bananas, etc. So we think a lot about fueling during the run because it is such a critical part of your success or failure is how your stomach is going to handle that. As far as eating away from it, yeah, I think, it's almost hard to eat as many calories depending on how much you're burning. So, uh, and then everybody's different. I have a lot of friends and they just eat trash. And then I have a lot of friends that are, vegan or very conscientious about that. And I try to eat well. Again, I want to be 70 without a heart catheter in place and still doing stuff. So regardless of running, I think I wanna stay healthy. And I think my diet, I don't think running allows me to eat whatever I want. If I look at it from a longevity standpoint.
Yeah, just your the performance is so much better. At least in cycling, your performance is so
Yeah,
much better
yeah,
if you eat well. I remember I used to check the weather forecast, and like a 4-degree difference in temperature would determine whether I'd have a salt-based performance drink or a sugar-based. Sugar would be more give you more of a boost, a little more energy, whereas the salt would
yeah,
be so you could retain the water better. So you'd watch everything before a race, and
yeah.
I used to really be keen. Does that sound familiar to you or?
Yeah, and totally the same thing. Like, yep, are you gonna be heavy on the sports drink? Are you gonna be a little light? I had a race in December I do every year. It's a 100-kilometer running race, and it ended up we had a really cold snap, and it was like 25 degrees for much of the race, and I totally overdid it on sugary, salty stuff in the beginning, and my stomach just revolted. Whereas I ate the same stuff at a race several months earlier, and it was a warm day, so my stomach and gut was good. Interestingly, I've done some long cycling stuff too, like the Shenandoah Mountain 100. It's about an hour from here, but it's a great mountain bike race, 100 miles. And that I love because like I think just not having the jostling, I can eat like all sorts of stuff. They have pizza at one aid station, and I'll put like a slice of pizza in my jersey and eat it on the bike as I go, and my stomach's cool with that. But not running, I got to be more careful.
Yeah. A friend of mine's daughter just did the what's it, the Blue Ridge Trail? Appalachian, what's the trail that goes all the way to New Hampshire?
Yeah,
Or
the AT Appalachian Trail. Yep,
Appalachian Trail. She walked the whole thing by herself. I think it's crazy, but she did it.
amazing.
Do you get a lot of trail walkers that ask for support or you can help? Is that ever a factor living right there in Crozet?
Yeah, we're right on the AT. I regularly run. That's at the top of one of our main training hills, Jarman's Gap Road, and so yeah, it's pretty cool when you go out for a trail run. We happen to again just be a few miles from Shenandoah National Park, so uh, during especially May and June, we see a lot of through hikers coming through, and they're pretty self-sufficient. They don't
Yeah.
need too much stuff. But usually, a couple times a year, you'll have someone who's coming through going for the fastest known time on the AT, which is like this different thing. So that's been pretty cool. I've come out and paced a few people, pacing meaning just running with them for a little bit, chatting them up and such, and got to spend a few miles with the current overall record holder for that, this woman, Tara Dower. And yeah, it's really cool because I can just pop from my house and like bring the crew some pizza and some drinks and then run. And yeah, it's kind of fun living right next to the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah. Speaking of which, do you allow yourself a crozet pizza every once in a while? Because that's we when I was at UVA, we loved crozet pizza.
Oh yeah, it's still going strong, and we definitely get that from time to time. They have the just great like recipes, and it still has that nice that red. You remember the red kind of barn look to it. So yeah, they've actually expanded quite a bit, and they're doing very well. But it's the same delicious pizza.
Yeah. Well, look, your crazy brother, my good friend Tim, sometimes he doesn't worry that much about fitness, even though he's in good shape. He likes to ride his bike and all that stuff. But then he'll up and run a marathon out of nowhere. And you're like, Tim, that's crazy. And he's done it numerous times. Is that how you got started running? Did Tim talk you into all this?
100% yes. So, and I have to say, like, so. So yeah, when I first kind of got into, I had always like done a little bit of stuff, but my first endurance anything was my brother got me into the 24 hours of Canaan. They used to have this mountain bike relay back in like the 90s, and oh man, I remember I was still drinking a lot and smoking cigarettes and I would go out for some bike ride and then probably came back and had a cigarette or something. But he had done the 24 hours of Canaan mountain bike relay, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna join for this and do some training and so that was my first endurance event. I did not take it seriously, but I think when you're 20, you can do anything.
Mhm.
And then but I still never liked to run more than like 2 miles. And he signed up for the Marine Corps Marathon. I think he's done it every year for maybe 18 or 19 years. I know he's coming
Crazy.
up on 20. And he's like a great example of what I like to think of when so much of whatever we want to do in life, frankly, but if you just look at it from an exercise standpoint, for just like doing something hard, is up here because he legitimately will not do a lot of training. And then a month before, he'll do a few runs and he's going out and he's finishing, the Marine Corps Marathon. Now he's doing the Marine Corps 50K, that they have. So he's done that the past 3 years. And I think just going on kind of toughness. And if you've never run more than 5 miles, right? I don't even like to talk about ultra running at work or anything because it's like, you wouldn't get it. It's not worth talking about, but it's very intimidating to think about that. But once you get a little bit of a base of fitness or you just have experience, you can do stuff. So Tim got me to run my first Marine Corps marathon, which I was completely against, and he finally like beat me into submission. I was like, okay, I'll do it once and then never again. And then I think I got that feeling at the end of the race where I was destroyed and I was so hurting and injured. And I was like, okay, I think we should do this again next year. So I do credit my brother for pretty much why I'm kind of where I'm at. Yeah.
I credit Tim for getting me to drink 2 beers at lunch a few weeks ago. Uh, but to be honest with you, I don't think I need much persuasion. So, what was it like to win the Catoctin races? I believe the one you won.
Oh yeah.
I when I was a cyclist, I only won 2 races in my career. I probably did 60, 70 races, and I think numerous top tens. But there's 100 people in a race. It's hard to win it. So a lot has to happen so you can win something. And my guess is running is not that different from that. But tell us how it felt to win that race.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was my one race that I've won, the Catoctin 50K, which is this awesome race. It's been going on for a long time. This great race director, Kevin Sayers. It's up in Gambrel State Park in Maryland. It's in July, so it's hot. The trail isn't marked very well. but they have this incredible barbecue afterwards. It's like all about the party. It's all about the event. And I had done 2 years of ultra running prior to that, and was just figuring out like how to train and how my body was responding, and you know, had some performances where I was, maybe 15th in a race, and just figuring that out. And one of my best friends here, Dan Spearin, he's like my main training partner. We were doing a lot of these together, and then a friend said, "Hey, you should do Catoctin. It's an awesome race, great vibe. I'm extroverted, so I signed up." And yeah, it just was this perfect day of uh, being with a pack up front, and you know, ultra marathons are long events, so you're maybe 3 hours in, and you start to see, like, you can just tell without speaking, like, I think that person is having some negative thoughts. I think that person's getting a little tired. He took just a little longer at that aid station than I did. And that's an out and back race. And at the turnaround, you see the people coming right back at you. And it's amazing. You can read right away, like, oh, I got that guy. And so, yeah, it was cool. I think I finally got into first place with about 15 miles to go. And, had never been in that situation with any sort of sport, and just tried not to run scared. Tried to kind of have the attitude of like, well, if they're gonna come back and beat me, I'm gonna try to make it hard on them. And ended up, yeah, getting a win, which is so cool. My wife and son were there, and also, like, I'll be the first to say, compared to like fast people, I'm not very fast. I think I've been blessed with like a sturdy body. I'm pretty gritty, but if you look at my 5K time, it's terrible. Like, I've never really broken 18 minutes in a 5K, which, there's like high school freshmen that are running 15 minutes. So that type of speed I wish I had. And maybe that's why I also like the ultra marathons, because I like to be competitive, and I just have to like outlast people, and figure out the whole keeping yourself together for that amount of time. So yeah, but haven't won a race since, probably won't again, but that was a good day.
Maybe there's a 15 over category you can win.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Next
Do,
year.
do they have masters? Do they have,
Yeah, yeah, most of the races will have like a masters category, 40 and over, and then super masters, 50, and then a grandmasters for 60 plus. So yeah, I'm 6 months away from leveling up.
yeah, I thought when I got to be 50, I'd do 5Ks and I could run, in my late 40s, I was probably 21 minutes. So I could always finish near the top of my age group, even in a
Yeah,
big one in like an elementary school 5K, I could win it or get close. And then I used to always look at the over 50s. I'm like, there's not many people that are still running. I can win these things. Now I realize why they're so, they're easier to win because everyone's hurt and they can't run anymore,
that's
um,
it.
like me. So I was thinking about that Catoctin race. Is it harder to run without a carrot in front of you? Like when you're in the lead, you're talking about you don't want to be negative. Is it almost easier to be in second sometimes because you have that person in which to focus on, and when you're in the lead, you can only really look back.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's such a big truth for like anyone who likes to be competitive. I often will say to like my friends when we're talking about race strategy is like, at the end of a race, if you're getting past, it's the worst feeling in the world, because you can't do anything about it, and any way you slice it, you didn't pace yourself as good as that person. But on the other hand, if you paced yourself well and you're seeing somebody and chasing them down, it's like playing Mario Brothers and punching up one of those one up squares where you just get this extra energy that is like, mentally, there's this big side of it. It's not just how much you're eating. There's a big part up here that can start to unlock a little bit of extra energy. So, you know, getting to pass someone is really good, but you also, yeah, I had a lot of miles to think like, okay, I don't want to get passed again, and I don't want to like freak out about that, because it is very hard when you know you're in first and you have no idea if the person behind you is closing or not. So it's a good testament to just, nope, you just gotta worry about your own race. You can only go as fast as you can go. There's no such thing as free speed, and just do the things you know you need to do. Drink, get nutrition into your body, and be as tough as you can possibly be. But don't worry about the people that might be coming up behind you. But I love chasing people down. It's definitely a good
Yeah.
feeling.
Is there ever a feeling when you have a lot of energy left and you're powering up with those Mario points? Is there ever a feeling, well, obviously I could have gone faster earlier if I have that much energy left?
I don't think so because the ultras are so long that if you have extra energy towards the end, um, I don't know. I've every ultra that I've done, like over 50 now, I've raced everyone really, really hard, and never once have I ever thought like, oh, I should have started faster. I really like a slow start and a fast close, especially in the longer distances. So yeah, I think it's just so long that you get locked into a certain pace, and yeah, it's a rare feeling for someone to be like, oh, I should have done faster. I have gone out too fast many times and blown up where I had a really rough end, and nobody wants that. And once you have had that happen several times, which I certainly have, you realize like, no, it's always better to start conservatively and start picking people off a little bit later.
Yeah, my greatest 5K times is when I completely blew the first mile or two, and I'm going way too fast, and I just hold on. Those are my
Yeah.
best 5K times, and
Yeah.
but mentally you don't feel great finishing the race. You might not leave that place feeling like $1,000,000, but that's how I've usually done my best time. But ultra running is, I'm sure, a different
Yeah.
animal. Tell us a
Oh,
little bit
and
about the. Did you want to comment on that?
I was just gonna say I just ran our Charlottesville area trail runners. We put on this summer series, and I usually volunteer and help out with most of them. But I raced the race this weekend. It's a 5 miler, and I was thinking about that. I was like, this in many ways it's so different because it is just pedal to the metal from the very beginning. Half mile in, you just feel like, oh my God, my heart's gonna explode. Can I keep this up? But ultimately, it still comes down to the same kind of mental tricks of like, okay, don't pay attention, don't think about it too much, just keep going, keep pushing, and it's only gonna last, for 39 minutes or however long.
Yeah.
So you use a lot of the same strategies mentally to stay tough, but by all means, those shorter distances, man, they are cruel. They hurt so bad for a short period of time.
Exactly. Well, and also in the 5K, if you go slow early, you're going to find yourself in a pack most of the race. And some people don't relax as well when they're running around a lot
Yeah.
of people. So like I like to be in the top 10 and 20 because then it really spreads out and I can get my rhythm. So I think I would be more comfortable going slower early, but I get in a better position if I go faster early. And then it's to me, I can usually maintain that because even if I slip one or two positions, it's better. But again, that's not even. I don't even know what I'm talking about. It's not even in the same league. Tell us a little bit about the Old Dominion race. That's a race. I think you finished twice. You got finished second twice. It's a 100-mile race. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that
Yeah,
race.
the that's another great race. So the Old Dominion 100-mile cross country run is the second oldest 100 miler in the country. It's
Hmm.
been going on again. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know. Is it like 40 years, 45 years? Maybe it's 37, but a long time. And it's put on by this family in Woodstock, Virginia, and it is just one of the best 100-mile races. It's just a beautiful like section of Virginia. It's in Fort Valley, which is this little like mountain area right near Massanutten Resort in the Shenandoah Valley. And it's a wonderful mixture of these beautiful scenic pastoral gravel roads with lots of hills. And then there's a lot of mountain climbs as well, like pure hands on knees mountain trail hiking up, running down. So that happens in the first weekend in June. And yeah, that was a really great day. I had a good race there. Although, again, I think the first place winner was like a couple of hours ahead of me. So, yeah, I was second place, but I'll concede. There's a lot of people that are faster than me. I just had a good field perhaps that day. But that is, yeah, that's great to have that type of history too, where you know you're running the same course that so many people have. And if you are under 24 hours there, you get this belt buckle. It's this beautiful pure silver belt buckle that has like a runner and a horse, because there's also an Old Dominion 100-mile horse race that I think takes place the weekend after. And yeah, we love to go out. I was out there at Old Dominion this year. My friends signed up, so you go out and you crew them. You run a little bit of the race with them. It becomes a really neat thing to get into. So even if you're not someone who does these a lot, there's always someone that you know who's doing them that might need some help crewing them or being a pacer or something like that.
Yeah. And in a 100-mile race, how do you manage the time? I mean, how do you make time go by? Do you play tricks on yourself to kind of trick yourself into thinking time is passing by, or what are some of the things that you can do?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I remember, I can still remember when I signed up for the first Charlottesville 10 miler. And I was just like, who runs 10 miles? Like, what do you even think about, right? Like, and that was like a hang up. Like, what do you think about? How can you keep yourself inside your own head for that long? And what I realize now for, yeah, running something like a 100 miler or a 20-mile training run, but especially the races, like, oh, you're busy. There's plenty to think about because first of all, you don't break down the time. You just kind of break it down to like, okay, it's 2 hours to the next aid station. You kind of do aid station to aid station, and in a lot of ultras, the aid stations are, depending on how fast you're going, but 1 to 2 hours apart. So sometimes you have a lot of time, and so you have to think so much about your nutrition and your fluid hydration. So a lot of us wear these vests and you have like bottles and you got, food stuffed here and stuffed here. So there's a lot of thought about like, okay, it's 20 minutes since I've eaten. I need to take another gel, or I need to finish off the second half of this Chick-fil-A sandwich that I bought. And it really starts to occupy a lot of time where you're almost like, oh no, it's been 45 minutes. I got to eat again. And you're just kind of constantly checking your body. You're constantly lying to yourself that you want to do this, that this is enjoyable. You got to keep going. So I've never been bored. I've been tired a lot of times where I've gotten crushed by how much longer I probably have, but it's never been a boring endeavor where I've just been thinking like, oh man, I wish this would just kind of hurry up. So
Yeah. Well, John, when you think about your success in running, when I was talking to Bonnie Axman, who won the Marine Corps Marathon,
yeah.
when I went through her background, she didn't set the world on fire as a runner. She ran in college. She ran at Frostburg State. I don't think she was a state champ or regional champ in high school, and she did well at Frostburg State. I think she got some top 20s, but nothing extraordinary. But it was basically because they don't run the marathon distance. The races are much shorter, and especially in high school, but also college. I don't even believe they do a marathon in college. So she's always going to be a better marathon runner than any other running event, and probably beyond. Do you think you could have been a good runner at Robinson and at James Madison? Do you think you had the talent, or do you think this is probably your niche, the ultra stuff?
Yeah, it's a good question. I bet it's probably my niche. I'm curious about that because, you know, in high school, oh man, I did not run at all. I mean, back then we rode our bikes all over, right? I probably got some childhood fitness from that, but I was interested in smoking and drinking, hanging out with my friends, and the same thing in college. And it wasn't until really I became a dad where I was like, I think I should really make exercise like part of my daily routine. My dad could still, at the drop of a hat, go run 5 miles with me in college, and I really realized like, that doesn't just come by sitting on your butt all day. Like you got to constantly be in shape. So thinking ahead 18 years, um, I started to like, change that mindset. So yeah, I still say like I just have never had the best VO2 max. And when I see these people who have, 15-minute 5K speed, I don't think I ever would have had that. I'm curious how fast I would have been, but I don't think I would have been good in those traditional like shorter time trial things, 1K, 2K, 5K. I think I've probably been meant for just those long, gritty endurance events more than anything. So
Yeah. Well, look, John, this has been great. So it's so nice meeting you. I would like to ask you one question.
yeah,
I feel like triathlons just kind of dominate kind of our fitness um, horizon. Everyone's always talking about tries, and it is interesting because you don't go all in on one event. You get a chance to meet a lot of people. Same kind of social thing. Do you ever think about doing like ultra triathlons? Because you mentioned that you were also a cyclist, and is that a thing as well? I'm sure it is a thing. What's the Hawaii? There's one in Hawaii now. The ultra, yeah,
yeah, Ultraman or whatever.
Ultraman. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've actually done a couple of triathlons. I did a couple off-road like Xterra ones. I forget the distance that they were, but and that was fun because it was like lake swimming, mountain biking, and then trail running. I'm a terrible swimmer.
Mm,
Like, and
me
and I
too.
and I didn't realize until the race, when I got into the river or the lake with all those other people, I started to have that like hyperventilating where I was like, oh my God, I can't breathe. What the hell is going on here? And I had to like breaststroke, to finish the swim. So I kind of realized right then and there that yeah, I'll probably never do that. But yeah, I'm just kind of all about the ultra scene. I just think it's so cool. We actually, not to get too off, but we do this 50K training group. This is part of our Charlottesville area trail runners group. And we kind of have people who are like training for their first ultra. It's like a free program we put on. It's starting in January, and just kind of giving advice for people who are maybe interested in running their first ultra marathon or maybe have never really done much, and just to show that like, hey, this is doable for most people. I take my brother Tim, who's finishing the Marine Corps 50K every year. It's like if he can do it, like you can do this type of stuff. You got to put in a certain amount of work. You got to work on your mountain legs a little bit, but it's not the intimidating thing that it has to be. And I just love hanging out at a finish line of a race. In these ultras, you're usually at some park or in some field, and you're celebrating just as much with someone who finished in the back of the pack as you are with the person who was third place. We're impressed more by like how tough was it for you and what did you do to overcome that? And I don't care if you're the first place winner or the back of the pack. We all just really revel in seeing people just get out there and accomplish this journey. So I just love that about the trail stuff and love talking about that. Love being involved with getting people out there and like what's the cure to all these things we suffer from? More time outside for sure.
Exactly. Well, my son was a soccer player in high school, and I encouraged him to get into 5Ks because he's got a natural stride. He's not a
Yeah.
fast kid, but he can run forever, and he's trained for to get himself in shape. And I would love to connect you with him. He's at UVA, he's finishing up, but
Yeah.
I think he'd be a great runner. He'd really enjoy it. But he's just getting into those veins, that running scene. And I remember, like you said, after the race is over, you meet a lot of people, and people were trying to do a good thing on a Saturday morning instead of going to the fraternity party and
Yeah.
and drinking too many beers.
Yeah.
They're in bed so they can get up and run a fast 5K
Yeah.
on a
I'll
Saturday
send
morning.
you the link to our next trail race to send to your son, Julian.
Oh, I sure will. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm down often. Maybe at some point we can have a crozet pizza.
That'd be awesome. That'd be great. So,
Yeah. Well, look, John, this has been great to meet you. I love doing this, and let's keep in touch.
yeah, thank you so much. Very nice to meet you as well. And love listening to your show too, Julian.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, thanks for saying that.
All right, take care.
All right, John,
Bye-bye.
have a good day. All right, bye.